Let us start our lab session today. Now, in our vapor absorption refrigeration system, which was our which we are supposed to demonstrate in practice, we should have we are discussing different components about it. We have discussed refrigerant compressors. Now we are going to discuss the uh, condenser. Now, first of all, we have discussed a number of times, what is condenser, what is its function, what is etc. Now, just I'm repeating the same thing again. The condenser is an important device used in the high pressure side of refrigerator system. Means we showed there are two sides of the refrigerator system which we have defined. High pressure side. High pressure side. Side at this low pressure side. We know that we receive refrigerant vapor at low pressure from the evaporator. Then it is fed into the compressor where the vapor temperature and pressure both are improved or increased by application of the external workload in the compressor, or in other words, compressor compressing this low temperature and pressure refrigerant to high temperature and pressure refrigerant. At the outlet, we are getting high temperature and pressure refrigerant as the output of the compressor. Next, we send in high pressure and high temperature refrigerant to the condenser, where it is high temperature is reduced to low temperature, and by simply releasing the heat from the refrigerant system to the surrounding, and thus dropping the temperature from high to low temperature. And high pressure low temperature refrigerant is then vapor refrigerant is then sent to the condenser, to the expander or throttle valve, but high pressure is reduced to low pressure, and low pressure liquid refrigerant. And actually, there is a phase change takes place in the condenser where high pressure, high temperature vapor refrigerant is being condensed to the liquid refrigerant at low pressure, and at high pressure and low temperature. High pressure and the low temperature liquid refrigerant sent to the evaporator into the expander, where high pressure is expanded and reduced to low pressure, and low temperature remains as low, then sent to the evaporator, where it is evaporated to low temperature and low pressure, evaporative gaseous refrigerant, and then fed again to the compressor. And this cycle continues. Now, compressor is a device used in the high pressure side. Just because there are two sides, one is high pressure side, one is a low pressure side. Refrigerator activity or evaporator acts on their low pressure side, and condenser always acts the high pressure side. But compressor increases the low pressure to the high pressure, and expander reduces high pressure to low pressure. Now, its function here in the condenser is to remove heat from hot vapor refrigerant discharged from the compressor. So its main function here, so the hot vapor refrigerant, here heat is supposed to be removed from the refrigerant, and it is to be converted from gaseous to liquid in condenser. The high vapor refrigerant consists of the heat absorbed by the evaporator and the heat of compression added by the mechanical energy of the compressor motor. So what happens here? The heat at the time of evaporation, the refrigerant absorbed heat from the surrounding of the evaporator, thus reducing their temperature and increasing its own heat content. Hence, it is being compressed. So it is being compressed in the condenser and mechanical work is being done. And mechanical energy of the compression is being absorbed to convert into heat in the heat converted heat inside, and which is put inside the gaseous evaporator. The heat from the hot vapor refrigerant in a condenser is removed first by transferring it to the walls of the condenser tube, then from the tubes to the condenser or cooling medium. So you know, all this vaporized refrigerant is passing through the different tubes, a section of the tubes or a network of tubes of the condenser, where it first transfers the heat to the walls of the tube with mostly a high heat conductive material, mostly copper or steels of equal property, and then it is heated to the surrounding of the compressor condenser or heated cooling medium if there is any. The cooling medium may be surrounding air or a water jacket which is flowing, which is sending low temperature water to the surrounding of the condenser and receiving high temperature water after removal the heat from the condenser, or it can be cooling medium is just a circulating or surrounding air, or it can be a combination of both of them. The section of a condenser depends on the selection of the compressor, depends entirely on the capacity of the refrigerating system, the type of refrigerant used, and type of cooling medium available. So, what is the capacity? Or tonnage of refrigerant? So, how much refrigerating effect, how much amount of heat is supposed to be removed from in the evaporator? That is the capacity of the refrigerator. That is converted into tonnage of refrigerator. So, higher the tonnage, the selection of the compressor, higher is the temperature to be removed in the condenser. So, selection of the condenser depends on exactly, totally, and maximum the amount of refrigerant, the tonnage of refrigerant which is desired from your system. And it also depends on the refrigerant we are being used and depends on the type of the cooling medium which is available at that moment. Means what type of cooling medium? Maybe a water jacket, maybe other cooling medium, maybe brine water, which is being used for cooling the condenser, or it can be simply air. Or air can be a circulation of air, or there can be just free flowing from condenser to the air. There is no circulation. So many things, opportunities are there. That can be a combination of them able to make the condenser equally important. Now, the working of a condenser may be best understood by considering it best understood by considering a simple refrigerating system. The corresponding page diagram shows the three stages of a refrigerator cooling system. The corresponding page diagram shows the three stages of a refrigerator cooling system, which is just shown here. First, a simple refrigerating system, and a corresponding page diagram showing the three stages of refrigerator cooling system. The compressor draws the superheated vapor refrigerant that is contained. The heat is absorbed in the evaporator, contains the heat, it absorbs the evaporator. Compressor adds more heat. The superheated vapor is highly superheated vapor, then compressed, is pumped to the compressor through the discharge line. The condenser cools the refrigerator in three stages. First of all, I'm showing you again just I've told you. This is the evaporator here. Here we have absorbed here heat absorbed from the surrounding of the cooling coil of the evaporator, and it heats the heat evaporator to the superheated region. Then it is compressed and heated to higher superheated region in the compressor, and then it is pumped by the compressor to the discharge line of the discharge line through the discharge line to the condenser here. Now, how then it is cooled in the condenser? First of all this superheated vapor is cooled to the saturation temperature called desuperheating or desuperheated. First of all, from superheated, you have to bring the vapor to the saturated vapor and saturation temperature corresponding to the pressure of the refrigerant. It is given by the line 2, 3. This is the discharge portion. This is the discharge line. It is brought from superheated position. It is brought to the superheated saturated position. This is superheated vapor, and here what is reduced, this becomes saturated vapor. This phenomenon is defined as desuperheating. The desuperheating occurs in the region discharge line and in the first few coils of the condenser. Next, the saturated vapor refrigerant gives up its latent heat and is condensed to a saturated liquid refrigerant. The saturated vapor refrigerant releases its latent heat, then goes and converted to saturated liquid refrigerant. Superheated saturated liquid vapor refrigerant is cooled to the super liquid refrigerant, and this is called condensation. The temperature of the liquid refrigerant then reduced below the condensation saturation temperature in order to increase the refrigerant effect. This process number 4-5. That is there 4 to 5 here. Now, in the enthalpy pressure enthalpy diagram, what is shown here, from the point 6 to 30.1, it is the evaporation process, where 0.6 is the wet saturated zone, wet vapor zone, where part of the vapor, part of the condensed the refrigerant is converted into wet liquid gases and remains liquid. So here mostly it remains liquid state, and only few of them is converted to gaseous state. And here, after it is reached the saturation state line, it is totally converted to the gaseous state, but remains the saturation temperature and pressure. Next, it is again heated further to make it superheated region, and but remains in the gaseous portion. So from 1 to 2, it is in compression. The more heat is added to it and make it adds more degree of superheat at the point 2. And then from 2 to 3, it is discharged to the condenser to the condenser discharge line to the discharge line. From 2 to 3, it is reduced the superheated temperature to the saturated temperature as per the pressure. From 3 to 4, it is being cooled, converted to liquid, and it is cooled further up to the 0.5, which is defined as subcooling, whose temperature is less than the liquid saturation line, and thus it improves from there. It is expanded up to the 0.6. So here, without stopping the cooling at the 0.4, it's cooled up to the 0.5 to increase the refrigerating effect to a higher extent. Now, what is the factors affecting the condenser capacity? The condenser capacity is the ability of the condenser to transfer heat from the hot vapor refrigerant to the condensing medium. The heat transfer capacity of the condenser depends upon the following factors. First of all, how well you can condense. That is the ability to transfer, how well you can transfer heat to the hot vapor refrigerant to the condensing medium. How well and how quickly you can convert. The heat transfer capacity of the condenser depends upon the following factors. First of all, the material. Different material has different ability to heat transfer. Therefore, the size of the condenser of a defeat capacity can be varied by selecting the right material. It can be noted higher the ability of the material to transfer heat or with the size of the condenser. So what will give that? What will make the size of the compressor? The number of tubes which is carrying out or releasing heat from the condenser. So if it's the tubes of higher higher heat transfer coefficient, it can release more and more amount of heat. The amount of contact. Now the amount of contact. A condenser capacity may be varied by controlling the amount of contact between the condenser surface and condensing media. So this can be done by varying the surface area of the condenser and the rate of flow of the condensing medium over the condenser surface. So surface area of the condenser which is being exposed to the surroundings and the rate of flow of condensing medium over the condenser surface. The amount of liquid refrigerant level in the condenser also affects the amount of contact between the vapor refrigerant and the condensing medium. The amount of liquid refrigerant level in the condenser. That means the refrigerant from gaseous state is converted to liquid state in this condenser. The amount of level it also affects the amount of contact with the refrigerant and the surrounding medium. Surface area of the condenser, rate of flow of condensation is the important rate of flow of the condensing medium over the condenser surface. All these are things that are important matters to discuss. The portion of the condenser used for subcooling cannot condense any vapor refrigerant. So the portion you are left for subcooling, cooling below the wet saturation line, which should improve the refrigerant to a certain considerable level, but it is not condense any vapor refrigerant because it is there, it is already condensed. So the important is what is the surface area exposed by the condenser for the heat transfer and how much it is flowing out, what is the rate of heat flow and the amount of heat displacement it is level in the condenser because it is already releases latent heat and it is surrounding that it becomes cool and being cooled to the only being cooled from the present position to the wet saturation point. And we should remember that at subcooling area doesn't have any liquid vapor refrigerant, it's all cooling, all liquid refrigerant. So difference. The heat transfer capacity of the condenser greatly depends upon the temperature difference between the condensing and the vapor refrigerant. So what is the condensing material? What is the temperature material? Maybe air, maybe room temperature air, or it is cooled even cooler than that is all important. And what is the difference between the temperature of this cooling medium to the vapor refrigerant is important always. As the temperature difference is increasing, the heat transfer rate increases and therefore the condenser's capacity increases. So heat transfer rate, temperature difference high, more heat will be transferred, heat transfer rate will be more, the condenser capacity also improves. Thus, the temperature difference cannot be controlled. But when the temperature difference is so great that it becomes a problem, even stable, all that will change the amount of condensed surface and the air flow to be condensing control condenser capacity. Generally, difference you cannot change, but difference if it becomes very high, it becomes a problem because devices are available that will change the amount of condensing surface and the rate of heat flow to condenser capacity. So there are devices where condenser surface can be improved and the rate of heat flow can be improved so that the difference between the condenser heat, refrigerant heat and the surroundings should not be very high. Most air-cooled condensers are generally operated temperature difference around 10 to 50 degrees centigrade. Around 10 to 14 to 50 degrees centigrade is the difference between the condensate temperature to the surrounding atmospheric temperature or surrounding cooling medium temperature. Now, let us go through the heat rejection factors. Just one. Next comes the heat rejection factor, the factor affecting the heat rejection of heat. Now, the better compression refrigerant system, the heat is rejected in a condenser. So, the load of the condenser part kV of refrigerant capacity is defined as heat rejection factor. Load on the condenser, load on the condenser part unit refrigerating capacity is known as heat rejection factor. The load of the condenser will be QC refrigeration capacity plus work done by the compression RE plus W. Load of the condenser is given by QC. Load of the condenser is defined as QC refrigerating capacity plus work done by the compressor RE plus W. So heat rejection factor RCF HRF is equal to QC by RE is equal to RE plus W divided by RE. QC divided by RE is rejection factor. QC the load of the compression divided by refrigerating effect. That is the load. How much load? This is the factor is as per definition. The amount of load on the compression divided by the amount of what is the refrigerating effect is there. What refrigerating capacity is there. The load of the condenser is given by the refrigerating capacity plus work done by the compression. So the amount of the refrigerating capacity is there from your system, but amount of work done by the capacity is the total load related on the condenser. That's RE plus W. So you see RE plus W and divided by RE, those reactor factor RE plus W by RE, 1 plus W by RE, and 1 plus 1 by COP, where as COP coefficient performance the refrigerating effect divided by work done to take this refrigerating effect. So we see that heat rejection factor is 1 plus 1 by COP. So that heat rejection factor depends on the coefficient of performance, which in turn depends on the evaporator and condenser temperatures. And actual air condition application for R12 or 32, the operating at a condenser temperature is 40 degrees centigrade and evaporator temperature around 5 degrees centigrade. Heat rejection factor is around 1.25. So actual cases for R12, R22, the temperature is around 40 degrees centigrade, is around 10-15 degrees higher than the surrounding room temperature, and evaporating temperature is around 5 degrees centigrade. It is to be done that your reaction factor is around 1.25. But what is the classification of condensers? There are three types: air-cooled condenser and water-cooled condenser, evaporative condenser. Air-cooled is the surrounding air, water-cooled surrounding water, evaporated by evaporation of the compression. These condensers are considered in detail the following pages. Air-cooled condenser. Now, it is the one in which the removal of heat is done by air. It consists of steel and copper tubing or copper tubing through which the refrigerant flows. The size of the tube, especially, usually ranges from 8 millimeter to 18 millimeter outside diameter, 6 millimeter and 18 millimeter, up to 18 millimeter, and depends on the size of the condenser. Generally, copper tubes are used because it's excellent carrier of heat. The condenser steel tubes are also used in ammonia refrigerant system. The tubes are usually provided with plate pipe fins to increase the surface area of the heat transfer. The fins are generally made from aluminum because of its lightweight and high conducting capacity. Fin spacing is quite wide to reduce the dust clogging. Here, the compressor with single row tubings is the most efficient, provides the most efficient heat transfer. There, this is because the air temperature rises as it passes through each row of tubing. The temperature difference between air and vapor increases in each row of tubing and therefore flow becomes less effective. But single row condenser requires more space than multiple row condensers. The single row condenser is usually used in a small refrigerating capacity system, such as domestic refrigerator, freezers, water vapor coolers, and room air conditioners. So there is should be single row, and that can be multiple row. The single row is always desired because it can make higher amount of heat transfer and quickly. Whereas multiple row tubes, the number of tubes, longer the number of tubes, longer the row of the tube, higher the row of the tube, the difference between the temperature difference between the condenser and surrounding is reducing. Ultimately, in the last rows, very little amount of transfer is being takes place. So single loop row transfer is always desirable, but problem is it requires much more space to make it effective. These are generally used in domestic refrigerators, freezers, water coolers, and room temperatures. Room air conditioners. The air-cooled condensers may have 2 or 4 rolls of tubing, but the condenser with up to nearly 2 or more. So here what you see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nearly 2 or more round tubings, but the condensers with up to 6 rows of tubing are also common. They are more or less 4, 5 rows of tubing, but 6 rows of tubing is also used here. Some condensers have 7 or 8 rows. Then, however, more than 8 rows of tubing condensers. However, more than 8 rows of tubing, the 8 rows of tubing are usually not efficient. This is because the air temperature will be too close to the condenser temperature to absorb many more amount of heat after passing through 8 rows of heat. So this is also, there's a definite barrier or constraint there to increase the number of tubings to improve the heat of condensation, but because higher you have the number of tubings, if you, the content of the tubing becomes more and more close to the temperature of the surroundings, and thus creating very little condensation effect. But main disadvantage of the air-cooled condenser is that it operates at higher condensing temperature than a water-cooled condenser. The higher condensing temperature causes the compressor to work more. So, as it totally depends on the surroundings here, air get also can be heated to a certain extent after prolonged use of this freeze or everything, refrigerator or everything. But it all here supposed to operate, air-cooled condenser is supposed to operate in that position. It is that operate in a higher condensing temperature. It's supposed to operate with cannot cool too much. So it's a water-cooled condenser. The higher condensing temperature causes the temperature to cool down. Next, types of air-cooled condenser. Natural convection air-cooled condenser. In natural convection air-cooled condenser means it is cooled by convection. Natural As the air comes in contact with the warm condenser tube, it absorbs heat from the refrigerator and thus uh, the water comes in contact with the warm condenser tube. Air. It absorbs heat from the refrigerator and thus the temperature of the air surrounding it increases. The warm air being lighter rises up and cold air from below or from the surroundings to take away the heat from the condenser. This cycle continues in natural condension heat of air-cooled condenser. Rate of heat transfer in natural condenser is slower. Therefore, they require larger surface area compared to forced convection condenser. The natural convection air coolers are only used in small capacity domestic refrigerators, freezers, water coolers, and room and air conditions. Means what happens here? The uh, here it is cooling is done by convection only. The one air being heated is that first of all, the air surrounding the tubes of the condenser absorbs air from the tube. Next, it is not as one air is lighter, it goes up and cool air takes its place, and which also starts absorbing more and more heat from the tubes of the crate. So this cycle consists natural convection air cooled condensers. Since the rate of heat transfer in natural convection condenser is slower, therefore they require a higher surface, larger surface as compared to the forced convection condenser. The natural convection air-cooled condensers are used only in small capacity applications such as domestic refrigerators. However, single-row condensers require more space than multi-row condensers. The single-row condensers are equally used in small capacity condensation systems such as domestic refrigerators, freezers, etc. The one air being lighter, this cycle continues in natural convection air-cooled condenser. But here, this type of heat transfer is slow, therefore requires larger surface area to compare to food convection condenser. But at the same time, by increasing the number of tubes, which also reduces the capacity of the condenser. A natural convention are only small capacity condenser applications like small capacity domestic refrigerators, domestic freezers, water coolers, etc. Next comes the forced convection air cooler. The forced convection system, a fan, either propeller fan or centrifugal fan is used to force the air over the condenser to increase the heat transfer capacity. The forced convection may be base mounted air cooled condenser or remote air cooled condenser. First, here we have to force air by means of a centrifugal compressor or propeller compressor to air over the tubes, thus reduces the temperature of the tubes. A base mounted air cooled condensers. A base mounted air cooled condenser. These propeller fans using propeller fans are mounted on the same base of the compressor, motor, receiver, and other controls. The entire arrangement is called a condensation unit. For the same shaft, compressor, its motor, its receiver, and other controls are with which the fan of the condenser also uh, placed, and its fan is being pulled forced directly to the condenser surroundings of the condenser, and this reduces the power losses to a considerable extent. In small units, the compressor is belt removed from the motor, and the fan required to force the air through the condenser is mounted on the shaft of the condenser. The compressor use of this type of compressor for indoor unit is limited up to 3 kilowatt capacity motor only. These concentrated condenser units are used or packaged on refrigerator system of 10 tons or less. The entire arrangement is called a condenser. Small compressor is built from the motor, and then fan required to force the air through the condenser is mounted to on the shaft of the motor. This type of compressor for indoor to supply of 3 kilowatt capacity motor only. This condensation units are used on privileged packaged refrigeration system of 10 kilotons or no. Generally, these condensing units are used on refrigerator units of 10 tons or less. Remote air-cooled condenser are used on system about 10 tons and available up to 125 tons. The system about 125 tons usually have 2 or more condensers. These condensers may be horizontal, vertical, may be located outside or inside the building. The remote condenser located outside the building can be mounted on a foundation on that ground or on the roof or on the side of the building area away from the farm. These condensers usually have propeller fans because they have low resistance to airflow and free air discharge. They acquire 18 to 36 millimeter cube per minute of air per ton of capacity. They acquire 18 to 36 millimeter of air per ton capacity. So per ton refrigerant condenser they require 80 to 36 millimeter water, meter of air. This condenser uses only propeller fans because they have low resistance to airflow and air discharge. Propeller fans can have this volume of water as long as the resistance to airflow is low. To prevent any resistance to airflow, the fan take on vertical output condenser usually faces the prevailing wind. If it is not possible, the water discharge side is usually covered with the shield to protect with opposite winds. The remote condenser locked inside the building usually required ductwork to carry out air and from the unit. Dark water restricts airflow to and from the condensing media and causes the high air pressure drop. Therefore, the high condenser usually use condenser centrifugal fan and which can be moves the necessary amount of air against the resistance to airflow. The remote control problem, what happens? Usually requires duct work to carry water from the unit. The duct restricts the airflow to and from the condenser cause high air pressure drop. Therefore, inside compressor usually use centrifugal fans. Use centrifugal fan which can be moved to necessary volume of air inside the against the resistance to airflow. Next comes water-cooled condensers. A water-cooled condenser is one in which the water is used as the condensing medium. Here, instead of air, we are using water as condensing medium. They are always preferred when an adequate supply of clear, inexpensive water and means of water disposal is available. This condenser is commonly used in commercial and industrial refrigerating units. The water-cooled condensers may use either of the following two water-cooled systems. Wastewater system, recirculated water system. So first of all, we are replacing the air-cooled condenser by water-cooled condenser. And there are two types of water condenser used, wastewater or recirculated water. How it's being done? Here we are using first the wastewater system. With the vapor refrigeration from the evaporator is coming to the compressor and compressor as well. Then hot vapor refrigerant then goes to the water-cooled condenser. Warm water, the wet water from the city main goes inside liquid refrigerant from here to go to the receiver and from the receiver to the expander, and water from the city main goes inside this condenser to cool the inside the tubes. Then it goes out to the sweater. Warm water is going to the sweater. And this water system is like this. Here, from the vaporization from the evaporator goes to compressor as usual, and warm refrigerant, hot refrigerant comes up and goes to the refrigerator. And there is a cooling tower from where a cold water is coming and going to the condenser. It makes the reciprocal cooling, and warm water comes out, then again sent to the cooling tower where it is cooled again. So cooling tower is continuously supplied cold water to for the condenser to cool, and hot water is receiving from the condenser to convert it again to cold water by means of using the atmospheric air. But they are using the recirculating. So water circular is always recirculating to make it effective, more effective. In wastewater system, after circulating in the condenser, it is discharged this way. As we have shown earlier in the picture, this system is used in small units and in location where large quantities of flat, inexpensive water and sewer system large enough to handle the wastewater is available. The most common freshwater supply is the cement. In a recirculated water cooler water system, the same water recirculating again and again, and is cooled and got heated, and is being circulated again and again. Now, this system requires some type of water cooling device. The cooling water towers and strap-ons are most common cooling devices used in the recirculating cooling medium or water medium. The warm water from the condenser is led to the cooling water, where it is cooled by the self-evaporation into a stream of air. The water pumps are used to circulate the water through the system and then to the cooling water, which is usually located on the roof. Once a recirculated water system is filled with water, the only additional water required is backup water. So what is going on here? The one water, there should be a cooling water, cooling towers which will cool this hot water coming from the condenser. And how will it? It is being done by self-production into a stream of air. The water pumps are usually used to circulate the water through the system then to the cooling tower, which is located on the roof. Once the recirculated water system is filled up with system, is only additional water because it's backup water. The backup water simply replaces the water that evaporates from the cooling tower or it's a pond. So in this recirculated water system, we recirculate the water over the condenser and got the hot water outside the condenser, and we uses a cooling tower system which reduces the temperature of the cooled water and thus make it to the atmospheric or human safe level. The water-cooled condensers operate a lower condensing temperature than an air-cooled condenser. This is because the supply water temperature is normally lower than the ambient water air temperature. But the difference between the condensing and cooling medium temperatures is normally the same, that is 14 degrees centigrade. Thus, the temperature of a cooled water condenser requires less power for the same capacity. A cooled water has a higher condensing temperature. that operate at a lower condensing temperature than a air-cooled system, because supply water temperature is normally lower than the ambient water temperature. But the difference between the condensing and cooling system is normally the same, that is 40 degrees centigrade, as compressed cooled cylinder given less power for the same capacity. Just I'm finishing. So let's start the next step.